we have been proven the sickest people in the world now per capita, in a third world country, in a first world country. And I think the thing is, when you're looking at chronic diseases, if you start with diabetes, then everything follows. When we used to hunt turtle and dugong, we used to paddle to the destination. Sometimes a hunt will take sometimes 3 or 4 days. Sometimes it takes a day, but it's a strenuous exercise to capture an animal. Today we've got what they call the limousines of the sea now, and they're 5 minutes to the hunting ground and back. And then you're eating, and turtle and dugong has a very high fat content. So when you're eating fat content and not exercising, then you get fat.
Housing is a problem, but they're not.
They're not the direct problem. Again, this is my opinion, and I'm usually right with my opinions. Housing in communities are a human right. We have the right to have housing such as people down here in this things do. Overcrowding of housing is a problem, but there always is a but in there. The council structure that we have in the Torres Strait, we have now the PBC, the prescribed body corporate structure, where we get our land allocated by the government. But now, because of the native title in that, it's negotiable now. And I found that the blockages were these PBCs who were trying to get more than what they bargained for. Instead of taking 49 houses to house everybody, what they're doing is trying to negotiate, and the government said, hang on, we can't do this. Either you sign a lease or don't sign a lease, and if you don't sign a lease, then we're going to hold off on the houses. So it continues to have these manufactured barriers, if you like to call it, and I usually say to the leaders, look, build houses. We'll deal with it later. Build the houses, get people out of the houses so that they can live their own life. It goes back to the factor again, like, you might have a good family that lives with their parents, and if their parents drink and smoke, then their great-grandkids are going to be drinking and smoking. So these are the factors that probably come into play. And then you've got mental health issues, drug issues, marijuana and all that sort of stuff are very much alive in our communities. And why they smoke, because probably there's no out for them. There's no way out for them, and that sort of stuff. And I think the more that we get educated in how things operate in the wider Australia, then the better we'll be positioned to make proper decisions. What would be the worst social determinant? Would be just lack of jobs, understanding of leaving community, and comforts of leaving community. I think they're putting the responsibility back on Torres Strait Islanders, making them responsible for their own existence, and finding solutions for themselves. The only way we could do that is through community control health organization and community control health organization, where it's controlled by people themselves, but people who have the understanding of an holistic viewpoint, if you like to call it, where they could see, they could deal with issues of housing, they can deal with issues of roads and infrastructure and that sort of stuff, and also entail education into it, and how do we support education, young doctors like you coming into the Torres Strait and having a month in the Torres Strait, not researching but working with our clients, not only understanding the sickness part of it, also understanding the cultural implications that come with it, so that when you go away, you have a better understanding of, Torres Strait Islander culture. So how do you then factor in if you're left in the middle, in the APY lands, which is Ananguput and Jara lands, in middle of Australia? How do you then deal with that? Torres Strait could be a starting point for you to also get to know that sort of culture. But going back to that answer, is for us please don't use us as we're now an industry. We're now an industry. Our health has made us an industry. Don't use us as an industry. Come and be partners with us in trying to develop something that has a better outcome. And let them take charge of their own health outcomes, I suppose, health solutions to create health outcomes.